Bids are in, the gavel is dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, here at WineBid's, we are finally hammered. That's right. This is WineBid's podcast dedicated to all things wine value, wine retail, wine auctions, and just wine. With WineBid's marketing team, I am Jeff Gurn. And of course, with me as always is Paul Walker, the Boffin of Barolo. That's right. Our wine expert, person who knows more about wine than almost anybody I have ever met and is incredibly, incredibly modest about that.
I haven't met that many people, if that's the case.
I lead
especially in the wine world.
I lead a very sheltered life. I was raised in a barn. Anyway, so we're going to be talking today about wines coming to auction outside of the United States and outside of France. Those are the two biggest regions we talk about. Today, we're going to start off with, let's start off with Italy. Okay, because we had a tremendous amount of amazing stuff coming into auction from Italy. Since you are a wine expert, particularly in Piedmont, I believe you're particularly an expert there. Let's jump into Piedmont. We had a bunch of Gaia coming into auction, which was really cool. I sort of picked out the 97 Gaia Lange Cantisa for $305. We've got 5 of the Lange Costa Russi for $345 a piece, and that's a 2000. And then we've got actually a 2011 Lange Sperse with 2 bids on it, taking it from, wait, what did I have that at? I say it's going from, I think it's 190 to 210 now. Yeah.
Oh, it's got, it was at $200 on
190
night, so
190.
Well, it seems relatively cheap compared to some of the other wines.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you look at it in the context of Gaia, like that's a pretty reasonable deal, I feel like. We also have the 97 at 505 and the 2000 at 370 of the Lange Sperse. And then, I was looking at this Bruno Chiacosa, the 97 Barbaresco Folletto Asili 3-liter. So a double mag for $795. I thought that one was really cool.
Oh yeah, that's so great. It's so fun to see those Chiacosa bottles in big format for sure.
Yeah, and like $795 didn't strike me as being unreasonable amount to pay. And based on the photo, it's a little dark, but the film level looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, it's in fantastic shape. That's awesome.
Right? Like the label looks good, the fill level looks good. That one looked like a really interesting bottle to me. We had a bunch of Giacomo Conterno stuff. The ones I picked out, we have 2 of the 64 Barolos, which according to tasting notes, you drink them pretty well. We had one, and those are 400 a piece. Again, I didn't think that was like crazy. One of the 96 Conterno Barolo Casina Francia for 400. And then actually the other one that I thought was really interesting that I've got my eye on, not to bid on, but rather for you to buy for me as a gift, would be this 1985 Giacomo Conterno Barolo Reserva Monfortino mag. I think would be a great gift for me. What do you think? It's only $4,900, Paul. That's it.
Yeah, that's a serious price. That's no joke. It's funny is that there's a 95 Portino 750 and too. It's 900, so you can see there's quite a premium for 10 years there in format.
Yes. 2013 Vietti Barolo Rivera for actually we have 6 of them. They started at $290. They all have bids now. They all have bids. They're up to $300 for the Vietti Barolos. I'm curious to see if those travel anymore. And that's for the Rivera. And then we've got a 2013 Vietti Barolo Rocher. We have 6 of those at $160. So a little bit of a discount if you're willing to go with a Rocher versus the Rivera.
Roque. It's a hard C.
Roque. Right. I thought it was Ferrero Rocher. So you're saying it's Ferrero Rocher?
It's a different country.
Is it though?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. We got a bunch of Bartolo Mascarellos, 05 for 300, the 08 for 405, and the 2010 for 550. The 6, and what's interesting is we also have the 16, which has 2 bids at 450 and for a 750, and then the 17 has a bid at 190.
It's a near complete vertical from, well, there's even goes back to 95, and then it skips to 05, and then looks like everything 05, 06, 08, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, and 17, and 18. So yeah, that's a great lineup.
And
15 Nebbiolo too. There's a couple of those for $80 if you want to.
Especially the 2010, because I feel like 2010 was a particularly good year in Piedmont, right? Like those 2010 Barolos, the ones I have been drinking like crazy good. 2016 Produttori del Barbaresco Rebaja Reserva Mag for 260. Actually has a bid on it, so it's at 270 now.
That's still, those wines are still, reasonable. They're great classic producer, and they're not in the same, the same crazy price league as some of these other producers in Piedmont. So that one stuck out for me too.
Yeah, especially in the mag format, right?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. 2010 Giuseppe Rinaldi Barolo Tritine for 350. This Tritine. 2001 Clerico Barolo Stiabat Mentine Ginestra. We have 5 of those at 110. I didn't even want to know how badly I butchered that. 1999 Luciano Sandrone Barolo Canubi Boschis. We have one of those at 150.
Skis.
1997 Soretto Barolo Brico Roque Brunate. We have one of those at 130. We've got a 2014 Masolino Barolo Vigna Rionda Reserva Mag at 240. And then to top it all off, the last thing I had was this 1959 Cantine Antonio Ferrari Solaria Jonica 500 milliliter for 205. We got 3 of those.
Yeah, it's funny. It's weird because there were actually some of the same wines in just a couple of weeks ago, and we hadn't seen these in a long time. And then all of a sudden there's like a little flurry of these wines. And I think there were like a couple other vintages too. Also, I believe that they were released, many years later, because the label on the 59 looks like it was probably applied, I don't know, 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, it does not. It definitely looks like a late disgorgement or re-release, something like there's something going on there. That was, because you're right, that was just recently released. That's not something.
Yeah, I remember seeing these at a retailer too, and I think they had just been either shipped from the broker or something, but because it's got, I was looking at it too, it's got like a relatively recent import label on the back of it. But
so doing a little bit of research, it looks like this actually was released sometime around 2004.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be about 20 years since it's been released. And
or at least exported, you should say, not necessarily.
Well, sure, exported
to the U.S. in this
case. I mean, I guess my point is like the review I saw basically had it as being just released, and the review was from 2004. Like they're basically saying like, oh no, you didn't, you're not misreading that. This is in 1959, and it was just released, right? And that came in 2004. So I think that's really interesting and probably bodes well for it. It is Zinfandel, or I guess Primitivo, right? They're the same thing as I understand it.
It's not the same thing, but yeah, it's similar. But
so genetically, my understanding is their DNA is exactly the same. So you can call them something different, Paul. Tomato. But the grape is
interestingly, there's a 1949 as well from Antonio Ferrari. So it's and that again, I think it's a similar situation where it was probably exported or labeled and then capsuled or whatever, not too long ago, but has been sitting in oak or something for a long time before bottling. Anyway, there's also 78 of the same Cantina Antonio Ferrari. Yeah, it's Salice Salentino. It's not from Piedmont, but anyway.
We're in Piedmont, Paul. I like to
I
do
know, but that's not where this wine's from.
Well, wait, that's what it shows. Wait, this wine's not from Piedmont?
No, it's from Puglia. It's from Salice Salentino.
Oh,
It's
then
not
you know
from
what?
here.
We have it in Piedmont on the website, so we should fix that. So let's move to Tuscany. Let's head over to Tuscany, shall we?
Okay.
We've got about 10 minutes left in the podcast. 1995 Massetto for a paltry $705. Look, if you can't afford the 85 Conterno Reserva Montfortino, I would be willing to settle for a 95 Massetto. Got two of them, so you can get me both as consolation. The other one another one that I love, and I know you're going to rid me for mentioning it, is the 2016 Fantoti Flasinello de la Pave for $195. 2016, great year for Sangiovese, and that stuff I find amazing. Even at $195, I feel like that is a producer in a bottle that just really punches above its weight. So big fan of Flasinello de la Pave. 1998 Marchesi Antinori Solaya. That actually has one bid, taking it from 215 to 225. We have what feels like, I mean, it's not that much, but it's a lot for us. A ton of Montvertine.
Those were the main, and they're all magnums too, which is really cool.
Yeah, well, there are 3 mags and then a 3-liter. So a mag of 96, mag of 97, mag of 98, and then a 3-liter of 98. And then we've got some 750 of the 1999 Le Pergole Torte for 270. We've got a mag of the 2000 Le Pergole Torte for 400. We've got a 2001 of Le Pergole Torte, a 2003, 2004. I mean, we just like a ton. And like you said, there's a ton of large formats in there, right? So if this is a producer that interests you, it's like Christmas Day right now, 2015 Usuleria Brunello de Montalcino. That one has one bid taken from 60 to 61. I almost didn't mention it because I was like, I want to bid on that, but somebody already bid on it. So I am going to mention it. Sorry for the person that's already bid on it. 1990 Avignonese Vinsanto de Montepulciano, 375 milliliter. What for a paltry 165.
Well, there's another wine. We were talking about those wines from Ferrari, and there was a bunch of Avignonese Vinsanto, and just a couple weeks ago, rare stuff too. There was like a whole collection, I think, from the 80s and 90s vintages, and it's historically been very expensive. It's not cheap wine.
No.
And then this week, all of a sudden, just a single bottle of the 90 popped out. I think all the other stuff that was in sold, but I mean, actually, I don't know. I haven't checked, but in any event,
2 bottles of the 90. There's 2 bottles in that lot. So, between the two of them, you can have 750 milliliters of Avignonese. The only one I picked out of Tuscany was this Lacini Brunello de Montalcino from 2006, the Ugolaya for 105. What am I missing in Tuscany?
First thing I want to say is I'm totally wrong. There's still a whole bunch of the Avignonese Vinsanto available. It's expensive, right? It's like you can buy Vinsanto for a lot less. I'm not saying that it's, not great stuff, but it looks like it's a little bit slow moving. And there's also a couple different designations of it. But anyway, getting back to topic on hand, which I'm great at straying from, there were a few other Piedmont wines I wanted to mention. There's a couple Berlottos. Those are always great to see. They come in. The Barolo Normale, if you will, 14 is at 95, and then the 13 and 12 Canubia Mobiliero are way more, 350 and 300 respectively. Yeah, I was excited to see the Giacosa wines and all the great Bartolo Mascarello wines. There's a 74 Bertani Amarone in for 155. So thinking about big 74 vintage coming up next year, that's not a crazy price. Again, considering we were talking about, California wines and or Bordeaux, 74 Veneto Amarone is not crazy expensive. Some great. There's a bunch of Capilano wines including magnums of the 07 Rupestris, the 11 and the 12 Rupestris as well. Great, Chiaretta wines. There's 2010 Vira Brico della Fiore Magnum for 290. some great Gaia wines and Giacomo Concerto wines we talked about, Giuseppe Rinaldi wines, Luciano Sandrone, the Vigne 98 Magnum at 260 stuck out to me as well. And then, otherwise in Tuscany, great to see that, like, again, kind of a, botched vertical, if you will, of Montevertini of the Pergola Torte. 16 Neil Poggione, Brunello I saw stuck out, seemed like a decent deal at 65 at 3 of those. And that was those were my picks. Mastrojani Brunello, also the Vigna Schiena d'Asino 15. And that was it for Piedmont and Tuscany. There was another, let's see. There was actually some Franciacorta Rosé from Bella Vista 2013 and it caught my eye. $45 for that. So that was it for me for Italy.
Wasn't a ton from other countries. If you're okay with it, let's quick run through. Let's say Australia. There are only 2 bottles I found in Australia. Usually I don't mention the Penfolds, but there was a 1980 Penfolds Bin 80A Cabernet Shiraz for $230, and then a 1990 Grange for $560. We also have a 97 Grange. And
there's a bunch of it. There's 81, 83, 85. 90, 98, 99. There's a bunch all the way to 2000
for 400. Yeah. Moving over to Spain, there's a 1976 Lopez de Heredia Rioja Visca Bosconia Gran Reserva. That one actually has 13 people watching it, 2 bids. It's already gone from 240 to 260. And we have 2 more with bids as well at 250. And then there's an 04 La Rioja Alta Gran Reserva 904 with a bid taking it from 125 to 135. We had some really interesting stuff from Austria. There's a bunch of Alois Kracher, Trockenbeeren Auslases. We saw those not too long ago.
Yeah, they've been flowing into auction.
They're flowing into auction. We've got 98s, 99, 98s, 99, 2000. So I thought that was super interesting to see those coming in. And then the only other one that I'll mention before I hand it back to you to drop anything that I missed, a bunch of Chateau Moussard. 61, 66, 69, 72, 64, their Grand Cru Reserve Rouge, 70. So if you're interested in Moussard, we just had 11 lots of Moussard come into auction this week. So that's some tasty stuff, right? Moussard.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very cool to see 60s vintages of that. It's not often found. So
no. Anything else that I missed before we wrap this up?
Yeah, let's see. There's a mag of Torbreck, the Factor 02 in for 240. That stuck out to me. And then from Spain, there's actually some really, really good sparkling wine in this week. There's also some of these Raul Perez wines, which I've tried the Ultrea whites and reds before, but there's also Atelier Cruz des Animas. I'm not familiar with those other wines, but did want to point them out because they're great and they're not expensive, 20 and $25 in that range. There's also the sparkling was Raventos. There's Blanc de Neat Cava Rosé, which I've had before, and it's really, really good. 2020 vintage, and then 2014 Manuel Raventos Negra at 65, so kind of stepping up in price there. And then also some 2010, and I'm not good at pronouncing this, Confacius, I think Phases, or it's Feixes, Huguet Brut Nature at 35. So some pretty interesting Spanish wines in this week we don't often see. And then, you mentioned some older, like the older Lopez Heredia Grand Reserva bottles. So 76 and then 08 Rosado. It's amazing the Rosado is so expensive, but it's really, really good. 08 and 12 Rosé. And I think that was pretty much it. 77 Taylor Magnum in for 260. So that was a great wine, great vintage. And that was about it for the rest of the world.
Well, and with that wraps it up for our rest of the world outside of the US and France episode. Catch us again later this week when we talk about France and the United States with WineBid's Finally Hammered. This has been Jeff McGurn and Paul Walker wishing you happy bidding and cheers.
Cheers.